So, the primary reason, or the much more usual reason why a lot of people in a partnership business tend to have a lot of commotion, and issues when the business has to come to an end, or else when they're at a certain point in time. It is simply because a lot of people overlook a lot of things that they should be discussing, threshing out, putting on paper. Listen, setting up a partnership is the easiest thing, right? Because you don't have to have it registered anyway. Right? People shake hands and say, listen, this is what I'm going to contribute. Okay, you can bring this. Let's get this business started. We're going to make money. And that becomes the end of it. Right? But then, because this is so easy to set up and people don't discuss at length as to what needs to be contained and how this partnership is going to operate, they tend to then not talk about a number of things and not document anything. This becomes problematic because if you never discussed something, and now you are met with a situation which requires this particular issue that you never discussed, how is it going to be dealt with? Remember, you're just relying on common law. So it's going to be very problematic and often it causes issues. So it is important when you're going to set up this type of business that you have a thorough discussion. You thresh out the important terms and conditions and you write them down. And today, I just want to bring to your attention some of the things that you should be talking about if you're going to start a partnership business. And when I mean a partnership business, I mean this is a business you're not going to register under the CIPC. This is a business that you're going to enter into with another person. You're going to shake hands, you're going to put something into the business, whether it's a skill, whether it's money, and then you're going to start this business, you're going to share the profits. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so let's get into the content. For those that are new here, my name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I'm an attorney and a director at a law firm here in South Africa, Johannesburg. So let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. So the first thing that you should be talking about with your prospective business partner is how are you going to split the profits here? So now, because this is a partnership and not necessarily a company, we're going to be talking about an interest that you have, which means that there must be a decision as to how the profits are going to be split amongst, the partners in the business. Am I going to get 30% in terms of the profits? Are you going to get 20% in terms of the profits? How is this going to work out? So what you do then is you consider what you're contributing to the company, each of you, and also how you're going to operate the business. Is there a skill in addition to what you're contributing to the business so that you can be able to thresh out and make a decision as to how profits are going to be split amongst the partners? This is extremely important, right? And it's extremely important because it tends to be an issue in the future. How? So what happens is that people often shake hands, decide, okay, let's start a partnership, and then they just, throw in whatever it is that's thrown in there. But then you'd find that there's an inequality in what people contribute, and you'd find that another person has much more skills, so which means they continue to even contribute much more in the company. But then you'd find that as the business continues, these people are still getting equal shares. And then when the business now has to come to an end, let's say one partner is withdrawing, whatever the case is, this becomes a problem because now that one that contributed a lot starts thinking now that I should be getting much more, right? Because I had a lot of skill here. I provided a lot of the things that I utilize in this company, so I should be getting a lot. And this one, on the other hand, will say, listen, we've been operating this way. This has never been an issue. So that's where disputes, or when disputes actually come about. So you need to have this clear from the get-go, right, as to how much interest the person is going to have. And this is extremely affected or influenced by how much the partner is going to be contributing into that business. So first thing that you need to be talking about. The second thing that you need to be talking about with your partner or prospective partner is how the business is going to be contracting with third parties. This is also a problem. You know what tends to happen? One of the partners often will love to be contracting with third parties, right, without even getting sometimes the necessary consent from the other party. And if there's nothing stating how this should happen, this is a big problem. Because what you find is that this one that was busy contracting with third parties often sometimes will make bad decisions, and as a result the company will be liable for certain things. And this one who was not part of these transactions will be like, you know what, I was not a part of this, and so I don't think I should be liable. Well, newsflash. There was no discussion about this as to how it's going to operate. Like, how are you going to contract with third parties? Will there be a need for anything written down, etc.? So you cannot then just dispute this contract because now it turned sour on the business. So what will happen is that you will find yourself as the partner liable. And one thing you should understand and know about a partnership, unlike a company, right? A partnership is not separate from you as a person. You are liable for anything that stems from that business. If, for example, the business had contracted with a third party, whether it's a creditor or whatever the case is, and now the business has to pay a certain amount of money. If the business doesn't have the money or it can't pay, it means that the partners will be held liable. And so this is why it's important to ensure that before you even contract with third parties, you have a discussion with your prospective partner that, okay, listen, I think this is how we need to operate. Whether the both of us have to agree and there has to always be something in writing, depends on you guys, but you must have an idea and have this written down so that there aren't any issues, because you'll find yourself liable for things that you never even thought about. And mind you, this will affect you on a personal basis. Let's move on to the third thing. So the third thing that you should be talking about with your prospective partner or partners is the issue of what is going to happen when you pass away. This is extremely important, right? Because automatically when you pass away, whatever interest you had in that business, your estate will be entitled to it, right? And you can't even give it away in terms of a will. It must be collected. Your executor is going to collect your interest that you have in that business, or rather, let's say your share, right? And it has to form part of your estate. So as a business, you now have to be discussing how is this going to work, right? Because you need to put certain things in place. Let's say now your partner passes away and they had a certain interest, let's say an interest of 40% in the company. And now the creditor comes and says, listen, we need to collect the interest of the deceased person. Is the business going to be able to give that to the executor? So you need to have some form of plan in place, as the business partners, so that if this happens, there's already a plan as to how the interest or the share of the deceased partner is going to be given to the executor, so that there aren't any issues. Otherwise, it will cripple whatever it is that's left of that business, right? And by the way, automatically, in terms of common law, a partnership comes to an end at death. And so if you don't have terms on how this is going to work, when somebody passes away, you are in it. You are going to be in a lot of commotion and a lot of issues. And the executor will not be playing. They will be wanting what is due to the estate. And then lastly, I just want you to talk about, like I said, what should happen when the partnership comes to an end. How is it going to be dissolved? Normally, people don't think about these things, maybe because they don't want to be negative, but then again, it's important to think about what should happen when everything hits the fan, right? Because it does happen. For instance, another person will say, I don't have an interest anymore in the partnership. And in terms of common law, that should mean, or that would mean, that there needs to be a dissolution of this whole partnership business, because it cannot operate by, maybe a partner selling his interest. It doesn't work like that. That's not a company. So you need to have specific terms that are going to govern these types of situations. Also, when it comes to end, let's say because you guys are deciding now, we don't need this partner for whatever reason, whether they defrauded the company, whatever the case is, the business. What's going to happen there? What are they entitled to? How is it going to work? Because if there's nothing in place that is going to help that situation or is going to guide that situation, all of you are going to end up in court. You're going to waste a lot of money fighting about this issue. And so it's important for you to think about it. So those are just a few things that I want you to think about and have a discussion on when you're going to set up a partnership business, right? Because if you have this discussion, you'll be able to have a properly drafted agreement. So that brings us to the end of our discussion today. So if you found it helpful, listen, like, subscribe, come back. Also share it with another person who you think could find value in this type of video. Listen, let's talk next time. Again, my name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I'm an attorney and a director at a law firm here in South Africa, Johannesburg. We'll see you next time.